Hey everybody, we are so grateful that you are here today for today's lesson at Active Self-Protection. Every day we post a real-life use of force caught on camera so that your training and your practice can be more research informed. I am your host, John Correa, like I am every day.
And I'm your co-host, Neil Widener.
Today's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is who I use and trust to help me protect myself and my family from the ravages that can come from data brokers selling your information. I've used them for all of 2024 to help me stop data brokers from selling my information to third parties, and I recommend them highly. We all have a right to protect ourselves and our family from harassment for our personal and political views, as well as from identity theft. I love that Delete Me rechecks every quarter and re-requests removals from anything that they find, and I don't have to do a thing. It's all automated. Get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans by going to joindeleteme.com/ASP and using code ASP at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/ASP and use code ASP at checkout. In this Challenger right here is an on-duty Dallas police officer who is doing surveillance, and you see this car here with the busted out rear window is full of ne'er-do-wells who decided that they want his car, and it's the middle of the night and he is doing surveillance, and they're gonna then loop around and come around to the backside of his vehicle here momentarily. And when they do, they are going to pull out and do a Ringling Brothers here and do a clown car and point a gun at him. 3 of them have guns on them at least. He is then going to go, okay, man, you can have my car and get out of this surveillance car. And as he does, they turn their back to him. He is then going to draw his gun and go to work on these guys and get some shots. Now, he issued some commands at them. They were ineffective and they started shooting at him. He returned fire. He hit nothing. They hit him with 1 shot in the leg. Thankfully, in the leg, not in any anatomically significant area. So then he ran off. And they ended up stealing the car. I don't know if Dallas PD ended up getting the car back. Thankfully, what it sounded like is that the officer is able to make a full recovery. I have no clue if Dallas PD has any leads on who these bad guys are. You know, Neil, I think people should think about joining us at the ASP National Conference.
I really wish they would. It's a great time. It's for a great cause. Tons of really interesting and great instructors. You should be there.
Yeah, it's a whole weekend of incredible firearms training, all to raise money for the Flint Hills Foster Teen Camps. We literally make nothing. Costs us money to do it. And we would love for you to join us. Link is in the description. Okay, it's an interesting one here, Neil, because yes, this is a cop, but it's going to act like a private citizen encounter, right? Because he's not in uniform. So this is like, this may as well be in Sao Paulo, right? In that kind of what we're dealing with here. And okay, he can't just leave because he's, you know, on duty and doing surveillance, and maybe that's the best place to do surveillance. But I think, Neil, the lesson for you and I as private citizens is that we shouldn't be sitting in cars at 3 o'clock in the morning in abandoned areas.
Yeah, I mean, I think the rules of stupid apply. And in this case, yes, he's doing his job and he's got to go, sit and watch whatever it is that he's watching. You know, I read the news story and watched some of the news clips. They didn't really say what he was doing there other than surveillance. But he is in the middle of doing his job. He needs to be paying attention. And of course, I'm not giving any tactical advice to law enforcement. I mean, I'll probably give a little bit here in a minute on this actual one. But if this is you or me, sitting in a parking lot in the middle of the night just invites trouble, and usually when you invite trouble, you get it.
Well, and of course, he's probably facing the way he is so he can see better, right? You or I, as private citizens especially, I do like backing into parking spots so that I can see where danger very well might be coming from. But of course, you're radically exposed here in these public environments, right? When your car is parked like this, it's a transitional space and you got to recognize it as such. So sitting out in your car, chilling in the middle of the night, bad idea. I get it. In this case, he's a cop. He's doing his job. He's doing all that stuff. So it's a different situation. But if you are in that situation as a cop, you better pay more attention than what's out the windshield. You better pay attention to what's coming behind you, because if he sees this coming and sees the headlights coming and sees a bunch of dudes getting out the car back behind him, I think the real tactical error he made here was not having a gun in his hand when he sees this. Because he has a good couple of seconds here, Neil, and if he had seen these guys, approach his vehicle, get out of the vehicle, recognize this is highly likely a carjacking, and gets a gun in his hand, this is a very, very different event.
It really is, you know, and the other advantage that he's got is those tinted windows at night make it very difficult for them to see in and see what he's doing. So potentially he's even got a little bit extra time to make those movements to get that gun in his hand, you know, so that he can react as needed. Now, I think what a typical person may see is somebody running up and knocking on their window with a gun and say, well, they've got the drop on me, I can't move. But that's also just some math that I think you need to go through of, can he actually see me, and then make your decision accordingly.
Well, and he's going to expect you to be moving around your waist because you're going to be getting your seatbelt off and all that stuff. And we don't see bad guys shoot through glass very often. That barrier is very effective at keeping them from shooting at you. But of course, if you're smart, you realize, hey, I can shoot at him, no problem. Now, again, this guy here is a carjacker. He should have taken a couple of bullets here. And one thing I will say is that our defender here, our police officer, is left-handed. And so that shot out the driver's window was a little bit more difficult, but you know, Neil, we've got some videos on ASP Extra about shooting out the driver's side window, and even for lefties, and I'm a lefty, it can be done.
It can be. You know, we've actually made the video, so go over to the Extra channel and watch those, where you can see John kind of just walk through what it looks like to shoot out the driver's window when you're a lefty. If you're a righty, it's way easier, but you know, but it can be done. And in this case, you know, somebody's coming up to threaten you with a gun, whether you're law enforcement or a private citizen. If they're threatening you with a gun, you have to believe that they will use it. And clearly, what we're going to see here is that they were willing to use them.
They were willing to use them. So again, this isn't a time for challenges. This is a time for bullets, right? This is a time, this guy's threatening me with a gun. And we see this on the channel all the time, is guys shooting through the driver's side glass, and you kill the first one and word spreads fast, okay? His other buddies will realize, hey, we left the oven on at home. It's time to get out of this area really fast once their buddy takes a bullet. He chooses not to. Okay, fine. Maybe he had the drop. Maybe he wasn't ready for it. So he chooses to get out of the car. I don't have a problem with that. We see this work as a strategy all the time too, Neil. And you see him here. Wait till they are looking inside the car and then start for his draw. This can be very effective too. But you got to recognize here, some people are going to ask, is this legally justified? My answer to that is absolutely yes. They are still threatening him with deadly force in order to take his car.
They absolutely are, and I would say the exact same thing. They're using deadly force to threaten him. They don't actually have the car just yet. They aren't in the process of leaving, so his life is still in danger. The thing I do like about what he did here is he's kind of using the window of that car as a barrier so that he can get his gun out without them seeing what's going on. Now, from our angle, we can see his shoulder or his elbow. I'm not sure which it is, and he's got that hitch as he draws, but from their from their angle, they're not seeing that. So, you know, rather than getting the gun out and issuing commands, I think getting the gun out and starting to go to work is the answer here, because they've already proven that they're going to threaten you with that. They've got numbers on you, and so I don't think that it's unreasonable to draw and fire at this point.
Yeah, and he is going to make a pretty tactical error here, a second one. And this is one, you know, Neil, before we hit the record button, you talked about this, is, you know, some people kind of have the thing, well, cops are just out looking to shoot people. Well, actually, if you go read the news story, they fired at him first and he returned fire. And I think the reason we can see that here is he backs up, he actually gets his gun out and then challenges them, and they fire at him first. So my guess is he challenges them to drop the guns. And this was officer-involved shooting number 8 for the whole year at that point for Dallas PD. And I think he actually hesitated too long here. I don't think he should have given him a command here. I think he should have shot him, Neil.
Yeah, you know, again, I am not a law enforcement guy, so giving advice probably isn't completely in my wheelhouse. But from a self-defense perspective, I think he waited too long. I get that, you know, maybe it's ingrained that I've got to give commands. You know, and Dallas, I looked it up. You know, their Dallas proper is 1.3 million, and to have 8 officer-involved shootings by August means they're not out looking to shoot people. But at some point, if somebody is threatening your life with a gun, it's not unreasonable to draw your gun and fire.
Yeah, and again, why would you? Because you don't have any other choice. These guys are trying to kill me. And of course, I want to recognize they were trying to kill him. They fired 9 rounds at him. One of them hit him and put his life at risk with every one of those rounds. So was it justified to be shooting these guys? Absolutely. and quite frankly, it wasn't the time for commands. There are times to draw and issue commands, right? There are times to do that for private citizens and cops alike. And I think the advice here is good either way. And I do think he did some okay things here. Once their fire started coming, yes, he put some rounds their way. No, he didn't hit anything. All that's bad. But he does at least move himself back and away from those guys, get a little bit of distance. Most guys couldn't hit their butt with both hands if he drew them a map at 10 yards. And he does get behind a little bit behind this power pole, which at least gives him a little bit of cover. So I do think he did some good things there, even with a bullet in his leg.
Yeah, I like the idea that he did create some distance, but his first shots were probably at 4 to 5 yards. And so, you know, I know I have shot the Texas law enforcement post. There's a significant amount of shooting done at the, you know, the 3 to 7 yards to pass that. So these are shots that he has technically shot and passed multiple times throughout his career, because I think they have to qualify at least annually, if not twice a year. So, you know, if you can't make a shot at 5 yards like this, then backing up isn't really going to make it a whole lot easier for you. Now, I still think it's the right idea to back up, or at the very least walk around the car and get in front. So now you've got, you know, the windshield in their way, so that potentially they're not going to shoot through that as well. You know, the part that I'm a little disappointed in here is we've got a law enforcement guy that couldn't make shots at 5 yards.
And again, under duress, right? Other guys shooting at you. I get it. But you got to be good. If you're not good enough to do it on the square range, you're certainly not going to be good enough to do it in real life. And your life is at risk. Now, finally, of course, he hobbles off into the distance. They get away with the car. I don't care about the car. But a couple things. I know plenty of people say, well, I don't keep a first aid kit on my person, John, but I do keep one in the car. Wouldn't be very helpful to him here. Also, probably his mobile's not in his pocket. It's probably sitting in the console of the vehicle right now. So if you don't have trauma medical on your person and you don't have the knowledge of how to use it in your soul, man, you're going to be struggling with a bullet hole in your leg in this case.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that I thought of, and we talked about it a little bit before we started recording, is that, you know, if you're sitting in a parking lot, very often I do the same thing. As soon as I get into my pickup, my phone goes right onto the console. And, you know, if I had to get out in an emergency, especially in a case where my life is being risked or threatened, I'm probably not picking the phone up. I'm probably doing other things. So now he is phoneless, very unlikely to have any kind of a med kit on him. So he's got to hobble across the street and beg somebody to call 911 for him. And all of that time he is bleeding. So having medical kit of some sort on your body and the knowledge of how to use it is a great way to cover your ASP.